Morning, all of you. Good morning. My name is Satvik Bhan. I'll take your polity classes and we'll discuss 2-3 important things for the examination. Then I'll start the class. Is it fine? So let's take down the syllabus first. You give this heading in your class notes. We'll start first with the list of topics. We'll first start with the list of topics. Right, so you take down the list of topics that you'll take with me. Write down. We'll first start with the first pillar of discussion, that is union executive. Union executive, where we'll discuss about 5 important subheads. I'll first take a discussion on president. Then we'll have a discussion on vice president. Then we'll discuss about prime minister, president, vice president, prime minister. Then we'll have a discussion on Council of Ministers. And then we'll take up a very important topic for the exam. We'll have a discussion on the last head, that is parliamentary form of government. Parliamentary form of government as compared to what? Parliamentary form of government as compared to what? Yes. Basic knowledge, parliamentary form of government as compared to, we'll be discussing presidential. Parliamentary form of government, we'll be comparing to presidential form of government. In a very nutshell, we basically see the comparison of different nations of the world, which you all know have got a prime minister from the newspapers. For example, India, for example, Pakistan, for example, Nepal, for example, Bangladesh, then for example, Japan, for example, Singapore, for example, Belgium, Netherlands, Portugal, Spain, Italy, then UK, as compared to nations which have got a president, that is president of US. And you all know about president of Maldives in the light of controversy a month back. You all know about the president of Turkey. You know about president of Russia, he got elected recently. President of Sri Lanka. All of these are one type of nation. So we try to compare the theoretical differences between parliamentary as compared to presidential. This first pillar of executive, you also write down the number of lectures that we'll give so that you have an idea of how the classes will go ahead. The number of lectures which I'll give for the first pillar of union executive shall be almost 9 lectures. Right? First 9 lectures we'll give for the first pillar, union executive. First pillar of union executive. And then after the first pillar, have you all written it down? Should I go ahead? Right. Then after the first pillar, we'll move on to the second pillar, very important for the examination, specifically very important for prelims. We'll start with Parliament. Also the lengthiest topic in the syllabus of polity, very important for prelims. Right, so we'll start with Parliament. We'd have almost 7-8 heads here. You write down the subunits. I'll first start with composition of the parliament. Then we'll start with qualification, disqualification, qualification, disqualification, and vacation of seat, qualification, disqualification, vacation of seat by MP, qualification, disqualification, vacation of seat by MP, the second head. Then we'll move on to the next head, that is presiding officers. Presiding officers. Then we'll discuss about sessions of Parliament. Sessions of Parliament. Also, we'll add in this topic, with sessions we'll discuss joint sitting. Sessions of Parliament. We'll also take joint sitting in this topic. And then we'll take up two very important areas in the exam. They are the most conceptual. And there is one question for sure that comes every year in prelims. So we'll open up the fifth and the sixth. Very important area for the examination. We discuss as the fifth head types of bills. Types of bills. And then we have a discussion on something that you saw on 1st of February this year. You saw what on 1st of February? Yeah, you basically saw an interim budget. We'll open up that in the last lecture on Parliament, but we basically discuss the constitutional provisions of the budget. But this time you saw, like once in every 5 years we see, this time you did not see a budget. You found out on 1st February 24 interim budget. We'll discuss that later. Just get familiar with the basic idea. And then after we are done with these 5 heads, 6 heads, then I'll take a discussion on the last leg of Parliament. That is right down. We'll discuss parliamentary committees. Have you heard the name? Parliamentary committees. Basic newspaper reading will be giving you the hints. Parliamentary committees. Then we'll take a discussion with the same topic on parliamentary privileges. Parliamentary privileges. Any example? Terrific decision was given by the Supreme Court in the March first week regarding this term. If somebody has read before, then you'd be knowing about this keyword, very important for the exam this year. But you appeared next year, obviously. But what's the context of this phrase as a basic citizen? If you read the newspapers, you understand. Parliamentary privileges. Yes. Now the term privilege simply means that there are certain benefits in English, but in polity, just try to absorb, just try to listen. There's no need to write that there are some rights, there are some special rights, and there are some special exemptions. We call them exemptions in polity. There are certain rights and exemptions which have been given by the Constitution to a member of Parliament. And under the light of those exemptions and the privileges, if a member of Parliament had taken a bribe and that bribe was taken to perform any act that a member of Parliament does in the Parliament, so if you don't know, you would have seen it as a citizen that you have seen the members of Parliament, they speak in the House, they participate in the bills, they answer and ask questions. So in the light of any action that is performed by any member of Parliament at the floor of the House, if he had taken bribe, then there could be no initiation of a criminal proceeding because the members of the parliament till the March first week this year, they had privileges, they had special rights, they had special immunity, and now that special right, that special immunity has been struck down by the Supreme Court. There was a 7-judge bench. 7-judge bench means 7 judges. They sat together and they administered on that matter. It's a big thing to have a 7-judge bench. Though you'd find several 7-judge benches coming up in current affairs this year. We'll discuss that point later. That's not important right now. So that 7-judge bench had said that the bribe, if it is taken by a member of parliament to perform any function at the floor of the house as a parliamentarian, which was earlier protected, that will not be inviting any further parliamentary privilege. That is why this topic is very much in news. We'll discuss it right at the end. And after this topic of parliamentary privileges, we take one more subtopic in the last head. We'll take a discussion on, write down, devices of parliamentary proceedings. Devices of parliamentary proceedings. So almost 6 to 7 heads we'd be having in discussion on the parliament. We had given 9 lectures to the discussion on the union executive. In this topic, we'd be winding up these 7-8 heads right down in 6 lectures. 15 lectures we'll give for the first year of the center. First 9 we'll discuss the executive, then the next 6 we'll give for the parliament. And though I need to explain you what you mean by this term center, I have not explained, I'll just open up. If you know the center in 15 lectures, then you automatically know what? If you know the center by basic logic as a citizen, you automatically know what? If you know the center, then you automatically know the details about the states. How many states are there in the country? 28, 29. There used to be 29, but then the 29th state, J&K, was converted to a union territory. So we have how many? 28. We've got 28 states. Now we'll study about the administration. After we've studied the center, we'll wind up state executive and we'd wind up state legislature. Both of these topics we'd be winding up in almost 1.5 lecture. 1.5 lecture we'll give for the discussion on the state executive and state legislature. And then after the states, if you know the center, you know the states, then what lies further ahead? If you've seen the center, you've then seen the states, then what lies further ahead? Yeah, that's a good thought, but that shall be taken quite at a later stage. That's a slightly technical topic, but yes, that is agreed. But what else? Local government also is a good thought. That shall again be taught by a separate teacher, but what else? Yes, we'd now be discussing in the last topic. The last topic shall be of union territories. Regarding the number of lectures that we'll give for union territories shall be half a lecture. A very interesting topic for a citizen, very interesting for you because you come from different states and right now you are in the territory, we call it NCT of Delhi, National Capital Territory of Delhi. And it is very interesting as a polity topic how the UTs they get administered, but for the exam a question will not come from this area, so we'll wind up this topic in half a lecture. Is it fine? So this is the syllabus of the lectures which I'll take with you, and this is your first class with me and I think your second or third class for the batch. So all of these terms are new for you and all of these terms you don't know about it. The objective is just to tell you that for whatever syllabus, whatever topic I'll take in class, we might add some more topics in future. So I'll inform you in the class if I take any topic in class, then the only source that you have to refer for my areas, for example, there are presently 5 of them that you just saw, that will take 16 lectures to wind them up. So for any topic which I take in the class, the only source that you'd be having is your class notes. And in the initial 2-3 lectures, I'd write things on the board. When I write anything on the board, I'll maintain a slow pace, don't worry about that. If I write anything on the board, then I'm assuming that you are writing it out in your class notes. That shall be your primary source. There are several books in the market. I'm assuming it's already been discussed in the first class, so I'll not go into that. So whatever I'll take in the class, the only source will be your class notes. 4th lecture onwards, we'll start going at depth. We'd start opening up some important topics that are important for civil services mains, but not at this stage. It's just your first class. So first 2-3 classes, we'll keep it simple. You try to absorb the basic details of the working of the Indian polity. And after 3-4 lectures, then we'll start having a proper write-up, how to write the questions in the mains examination. Second thing, obviously you'd be having doubts because all of you have just started your knowledge of this subject. And it's my request to all of you that you wait for at least 8 lectures, at least wait for 7 to 8 lectures. All the doubts which you think are important for the exam, we have already taken care of them in the class notes. So if you just follow the class notes, you'd be able to go in a better manner for the exam. But if you still have doubts, because right now your doubts are totally irrelevant, they are not important for the examination. If you still have doubts, but I recommend that you wait for first 8 lectures, let the 8 lectures get wind up. You understand the flavor of the subject. It's very important for you to understand how the things work. For example, in the first class, I talk about Council of Ministers. So there's no need to deep dive about what are different type of ministers, what is a cabinet, what is a minister of state. That will all take in great detail. Right now, whatever the teacher is telling you, whatever I'm telling you, just you revise after the class. I'll show you some questions also so that you get a good feel, but it's my recommendation that you wait for the questions. You just follow whatever I'm telling you for the first 8 classes. After that, you'll automatically understand all the details of the subject. Is it fine? And the ones who've read before, some of you might have prepared before from a different institute, some of you have got a good idea about the subject. So for those people, it's a request that you need to hold your horses. We'll teach at a very basic level. I'll teach at a level that somebody does not know any discussion about polity at all. So if you know, you keep things to yourself. I'll ask some good questions in the class, then you can always participate and give your response. The online ones, it's a request to you that if you will not keep the camera on, I will not answer your question. It's a straight direction. So you do not ask me any question if your camera is off. So we've been doing it for many years now. It doesn't work. But I'll still tell you, I'll not answer any question of any student who's not kept the camera on, because many of them, they've taken subscriptions, 2-3 people sit together and they take the class. That's absolutely wrong on your part. And it's a recommendation to you also that you don't put the questions when I'm teaching in the class. I will automatically take all the questions in the end. So when I invite questions after the class ends, then you type them here. If you write in the middle, I get disturbed and I'll not answer those questions. So you also be careful. I understand that there's a distance between us, but don't have any insecurity. You need to be patient. Let the subject get absorbed. Wait for 8 lectures. Things will automatically start coming to you. Is it fine? And what you need to do, you just need to follow the class notes. It's just your first class. It's too early for you to understand anything. So I'll keep on discussing after 3-4 classes the things important for the exam. Not at this stage. Is it fine, all of you? Okay, any doubts that you have, then I'll start the class. And yes, one more thing. There'd be 3-4 teachers who take polity with you, and that goes for every subject. So for every teacher, he'll tell you how he's planned his classes. So you make separate notes for that teacher accordingly. Like for me, you make separate notebook for polity by me. Am I right, all of you? Yes. Should I start the class? Any doubts that you want to ask me, then I'll go ahead, don't worry. Any doubts that I'll start the class? Okay, should I start the class? Right, now let's start with the first pillar. You give this heading. Let's start the class with the first heading. Give this heading, write down. Give the first heading, write down Union Executive. The first pillar, Union Executive. In bracket, write down. In bracket, write down. Discussed in the Constitution. Discussed in the Constitution. Discussed in the Constitution under. Discussed in the Constitution under. Now this is very important. Part 5. Discussed in the Constitution under Part 5, and the articles are 52. Articles are 52 to 78. The articles are 52 to 78. Now see, so what do you expect from the subject? What things will you study in subject called as Indian polity as a common citizen? What should be the objective? What can be the theory of polity? Right, working of the state, or I'd say that you all are citizens. There are certain agencies who have their mention in the Constitution. From the first class, all of you know that any modern state, any modern country, any modern government would work for the welfare of the citizens of their country, and any modern state cannot survive, any modern civilization cannot survive without there being a basic set of rules, without there being a basic set of laws. And that is what is the first query for you whenever you find any such term or any such post or any such job in the newspaper, that because we are studying Indian polity, which is all about the administration of the country. For example, you know about several important positions as a citizen, as a common man. You know about the Indian president, you know about the prime minister. You know that 14th of April we'd start with the elections to the Lok Sabha. You know that there is something called as UPSC. You know that Election Commission is organizing the elections. You know about Model Code of Conduct. You know about parliamentary privileges. You know about Ladakh demanding 6th scheduled status. All of these things, a common man easily knows that they are things which talk about the administration of any country. There are certain important officials involved. They are the ones who implement the Constitution. They fulfill the objective of the Constitution. That's a basic law of the land. So the first thing that is important for you, for your civil services, specifically for your knowledge, and more important for your mains, because in prelims you also need to know that UPSC does not ask you articles. They'll not ask you this article is what, but when you have to write any question for civil services mains, then you need to know the exact article that talks about the power of the individual. For example, I gave the example of parliamentary privileges, and there's a question that comes up in mains. Just get a hang, don't write, just get a feel what I want to convey. There's a question that comes that parliamentary privileges have not been defined in the Constitution, full stop. In the light of the recent Supreme Court judgment, do you really think that the parliamentary privileges need to be codified? That's a question that comes up in mains, for example. So when you find any term, like this time we are discussing parliamentary privilege, or any term that you study in polity, the first thing that you want to inquire on your own is what is that part? What is the part where that particular authority has been discussed? Now the questions come, now the question is, what is a part? What is a part? It is nothing but like any book that you study, it would have an index, and the author classifies the chapters in a beautiful logic, in a beautiful methodology. So that same way, when we write the constitution, we have broken down the entire articles, almost 400, into 24 parts, and within each of these parts we have got specific articles that talk about that power in detail. It's like saying that where is Vajiram and Ravi located? You'd say it's in Rajendra Nagar. That's a broad address of the institute. And then you say where in Rajendra Nagar, you would say it's located on Pusa Road, 7B is the exact address. So in the constitution, if you talk about any authority, you need to first know what is the part 5, and then second, what is the exact article, that is article 52 to 78. Right, for example, I say, you all know the CM is in the prison. The CM of Delhi is in prison. So you need to know CM of Delhi or CM of any state has been discussed in which part, number one. Second, what are the group of articles that talk about the powers of the chief minister? For example, I'll tell you, just get familiar. CM of your state has been discussed in part 6, and within part 6, just to tell you, it has been discussed exactly in the articles 163, 164 and article 167. That is how you need to develop the first point in the subject. Is that clear? Right. Now you write down something in your class notes. Write down that every modern constitution avoids underline this phrase, concentration of power, avoids concentration of power in any specific organ of the state. In any specific organ of the state. Therefore, to fulfill the objective of underline limiting the powers of these organs of the state, comma, the modern constitutions incorporate. The modern constitutions incorporate what? Every modern country, I am using this phrase modern country, a modern state, as compared to the ancient states. For example, you must have known or heard about Ashoka the king. You must have heard about Mughals as the rulers of Delhi and the northern part of India. You must have heard about several dynasties as a citizen. In most of the states that you come from, there'd be some dynasty that must be ruling the affairs of the people, but they all were kingdoms, they all were dynasties. They had king as the supreme authority. When the countries write their constitutions, that is nothing but the basic law of the land constitution is nothing but the basic document that is must, it is a prerequisite to ensure that every organ of the state, I'll just open up this phrase in a bit, what do you mean by organ of the state? All I mean to say is, any authority that you know, be it the president, be it the vice president, be it the prime minister, be it UPSC, be it election commission, be it any important agency, even the Supreme Court that you know, all of them, they derive their powers from the constitution. That's the basic law of the land. And if I look at the constitution of India, if I zoom out, if I look at it a bird's eye perspective from the constitution, let's say I want to very broadly look at all the constitutions of the world. I pick up constitutions of every nation of the world, modern states, and I want to just look at all of them. There'd be one simple philosophy that is connecting all of them. Because some countries, they might have a queen. England has got a queen. We've got a president. US has got the president. So, keeping in mind differences, if I look at any modern constitution, there'd be one common concept, that is, these constitutions, they would avoid any concentration of power in any one authority. So there'd be no precedent, there'd be no Supreme Court judge, there'd be no UPSC, there'd be no election commission that appropriates all the power. So we write their powers. In fact, we write something in polity. We write something in polity to ensure that there is no misuse. Very simple, but very important. Like if I enter the class, I want to sit on the first row, and somebody has reserved a seat for his friend or a friend, and I pick up the bag and I say, I'll sit here, and then the person says, no, you cannot, it's for my friend. So you can just solve this problem by writing and putting here on simple notice board that no one can reserve seat for the friend. Exact same way, we are writing provisions, we are writing articles with one intent, that there should be no concentration of power. Will you agree on this? Yes. Does it come to you easy? Right. Now you write down. What was the last sentence? The modern constitution incorporates, write down. The modern constitution incorporates the theory or the philosophy of underline, very important term, shall be opened up in great detail later, very important term, theory or philosophy, write down, of separation of powers, separation of powers, and thereby under the theory of SOP, every modern state would have the following three organs. Namely, what are the three organs that all of you would know by basic general knowledge as a citizen that every state would have? Number one, write down. Number one, executive. Number two, legislature. And number three, judiciary. In bracket, write down horizontal distribution of powers. Horizontal distribution of powers. Next para, and after horizontal distribution of powers, next para write down, and after horizontal distribution of powers, horizontal distribution of powers, comma, each of the three organs, each of the three organs is further divided. Each of the three organs are further divided into tiers, T-I-E-R, into tiers of administration, into tiers of administration for better governance. For better governance. For better governance, in bracket write down, what will you call this? What will you call it? Based on what you wrote. Write down vertical distribution of powers. Vertical distribution of powers. Now see, listen to me, vertical distribution of powers. So, before we enter the details of the Indian Constitution, I have just discussed the broad, basic, foundational, theoretical framework of the subject of polity in a very simplified, in a very crude manner. Listen to me carefully. I simply said that all I want to avoid in any modern state as compared to ancient states, as compared to medieval states or kingdoms, is basically incorporate the philosophy of the theory of separation of powers, where I know that every country in the world which needs to be governed in a methodical manner, every civilization in the world, if it has to function properly, it cannot function as it was asked in the prelims 4 years back, that if there are no laws, then there are no fundamental rights. Laws are the basic prerequisites for any modern society. So these laws, they automatically, wonderfully form the basis of the theory of separation of powers, where what we do is, I simply create three simple pillars, which is referred as executive, which is referred as legislature, which is referred as judiciary. This is the simple framework of any constitution of the world. Any constitution, be it US, be it UK, be it India, be it any nation that you know, will always try to segregate, speak about these three organs. We call them organs of the state, where executive will simply have the function of implementing the laws. The legislature will simply have the function of enacting the laws. Enacting means banana. Legislature laws बनाएगा. Executive उन laws को implement करेगा. One will make laws, other will implement, and the third will do what? Third will do what? Interpret. Okay, no disagreements. I'd rather say the better term is to enforce the law. Is it clear till now? Yes or no? I am just telling you how any modern state would write about these three basic organs in the constitution. Now I'd enter my constitution with the exact articles. So you be careful how we write these articles. You write the exact same way I'm writing the notes on the board. So I'll now enter my constitution. Till now it is common for every modern country of the world. Now we enter the framework of my constitution. I'd like to inform you, first I have part 5. What is part 5? It's broad address. Broad address of what? Broad address of what? No. It is broad address of union. What is union? Center. In Hindi we say Kendra. Kendra Sarkar. So that Kendra is discussed in part 5. In Kendra, we have first union executive, which I am discussing now with you. Articles are 52 to 78. Write the exact way as I write on the board. Exact way as we write on the board. Then we have Parliament, which is 79 to 122. Then we have Supreme Court, which is Article 124 to 147. Supreme Court 124 to 147. Then I have part 6. Part 6 is what? States, Rajya. In states we have first state executive. This is 153 to 167. Then we have state legislature. This is 168 to Article 212. And then we have what? State judiciary. Give me the exact proper noun for the state judiciary. Yeah, we call it as basic general knowledge. We call it as High Court and subordinate. High Court and subordinate courts. Is it visible in the end if I write here? In the end, the last row. Okay, it is 214 to Article 237. Is it fine? Is it fine, all of you? So now can anyone define what is union executive? Based on the discussion that I had with you, can someone, a person who has not read anything, he is starting polity for the first time, I want someone to define what is union executive, or what will you find in these articles, what will you find in the first 9 lectures by basic application of mind. If I now ask you what is union executive, what shall be your definition? Anyone try? The one who's read, the ones who've not read before, they should try. The ones who've read, they know. The ones who've not read, have you read before or not? Then if you've read, then no. Somebody who's not read, just raise your hand and tell me quickly what's the hesitation. Define union executive. At least try. Yes. Absolutely right. Now, you are absolutely right, but because we are discussing polity, and to again tell you the first thought, when we study anything in polity, you have to first, like if I want to know about you, I'll ask you what's your name. Am I right? So that name in polity is the article. So when somebody is asking me now don't write, just get a feel. If somebody is asking me what is union executive, I'll simply tell that person, number 1, it is discussed in the Constitution in part 5 under articles 52 to 78, first thing. Second, it includes the powers of the authorities, offices, positions or institutions involved in implementation or execution of the laws at the tier of center. You just have to tell me two simple things. What is the part article? Number two, what's the function and what's the tier? Second, what is parliament? Parliament is discussed in the constitution under part 5, article 79 to 122. Number 2 is including the powers of institutions involved in formulating or enacting or making or creating laws at the tier of center. What is subordinate court, or let's say what is Supreme Court? High Court and subordinate courts are discussed in part 6, articles 214 to 237, and include the powers of the courts to enforce the laws at the tier of states or at a further junior level. That is all that you want to know. So to summarize the entire picture before I enter the first article of the Constitution, you are studying polity. Polity of any country would be having the first basic premise of knowing the provisions of the Constitution. Constitution is a modern term. It's a term that is meant only for the modern nations, modern countries, because every constitution we write the provision with the primary objective of limiting the powers of different organs of the state. Every modern constitution, every modern country writes with the same objective. Indian constitution thereby has got this framework of powers, of separation of powers, given, enshrined with the exact number of articles. In fact, if you just count the number of articles, there are 400 of them. If you start from, let's say, article 52 and you go to 237, I'd say almost 200. 50% of the articles are just wound up discussing 50% of the articles are wound up just discussing one simple theory, that is separation of powers. And what is separation of powers in a very crude way? It shall be taught to you as a theory later on. Separation of powers just means that every state will create 3 pillars. It will divide the powers between 3 pillars so that executive remains in its own domain of executing laws. Legislature has got the own domain of legislating on laws, and the courts have got their own domain on enforcing the laws. That's the framework. Right? Any aberration in this diagram? Any observation that you want to make? Mathematical observation. A smart observation. You need to be smart with your observations. Yes. Yes. There is something that is missing. What is missing in this scheme of articles? Yes, yes. What is missing here? There is article 123 and 213. That's a very heavy topic that came up in civil services mains in 2023. It also came up in 2016. That is referred as ordinances. There is a very heavy ordinance that was passed by the central government. Take it as a fact regarding the working of Delhi. It is pending before the Supreme Court. That is affecting the working of the administration of NCT of Delhi. It's a grave step. This topic will take up in the first class after lecture number 3, when this will be the first topic important for civil services mains. Am I clear? Now let's start the topic. Write down, just give this simple subheading. Write down who all are part of. Quickly. Who all, write this question. Who all are part of, union executive. Who all are part of union executive? In bracket write down, implies that maintain a fast pace, implies that which are the authorities which are the authorities or posts, I'll use a polity specific term, offices discussed in the articles 52 to 78. Discussed in the articles 52 to 78. 52 to 78. Take down the answer. Very simple question. Write down the answer. First we have the president. First authority being discussed is the president. Second that we have, you must have heard these positions, vice president. Mr. Jagdeep Dhankad is the vice president of India. Vice president. Third, prime minister. I hope all of you know it. Prime minister. Fourth, you would have heard, but you don't know. We'll open up in great detail later. Write down Council of Ministers. And fifth is what you know from the newspapers. Everyday reading, you would be finding his name, this position's name. Write down number 5. Number 5. This came up in the exam in 22 prelims. We'll discuss it later. Very simple question came. Write down number 5 is Attorney General. Attorney General. Now listen to me. President, Vice President, PM and Council of Ministers, these 4 are the ones which have been discussed in great detail in the articles that we are discussing now, 52 to 78. So we'll keep them aside. We'll open up in great detail. But this post is very interesting. It is very important for your knowledge. Attorney General, for example, right now the Attorney General is Mr. R. Venkatramani. And in the newspaper, have you found out the name of this post or the name of this person? Mr. R. Venkatramani, writing or giving his views before the court. When was the last time you heard or you found this term in the newspaper? Electoral bonds, very good. Or regarding the dispute between center and state regarding arrest of Mr. Kejriwal under Prevention of Money Laundering Act 2002 by Enforcement Directorate. That's okay. What else? Yes, very good. There is a dispute that is going on between the Kerala state government and the central government regarding an Article 293. Let's not get stuck there. Just listen to it. There's a dispute between Kerala state government and central government, Kendra Sarkar, regarding the amount of money that can be borrowed. That is Article 293. Just take it as a fact. Second, you told me the Supreme Court had struck down in the month of February a scheme that was started by the central government against central government, that is referred as electoral bonds. And third, in the case where the government of India or the Bharat Sarkar or the central government has to defend before the Supreme Court the law which has been made regarding the appointment of election commissioner and the CEC, or in the abrogation of 370, when the government of India or the central government, the center defended the act of abrogation of 370 in the month of November this last year. In all of these cases, what is the common strand? In all of these cases which I told you, what is the common strand? Have all of you heard these cases or not? At least one of them you might have heard as a common citizen. One of them, let's say by a passing reference, you might have heard. In all of these cases, first commonality is the central government, which is Bharat Sarkar. The central government, Bharat Sarkar, is a party in a dispute that is pending with the Supreme Court. All of these are very important cases where the government of India or Bharat Sarkar, or in a crude way we call it central government, is a party. And because the central government is implementing so many laws, so many policies, so many programs, that is why the Indian Constitution has created a very interesting and a much required post, which is referred as Attorney General. Attorney General is that highest lawyer. It's a permanent, fixed lawyer which has been given to the government of India where there is any case against the government of India, any case against Bharat Sarkar, any case against the union government, the permanent and the highest lawyer who shall be defending the actions of the government of India in the court of law, because obviously the Prime Minister will not go and answer for his actions. These are core matters of law. Thereby the Indian Constitution provides for a permanent lawyer which is known to all of us in the Constitution as Attorney General. In a very crude way, I'd say Attorney General is the best friend of the Prime Minister. Attorney General, in a further crude way, I can say, is alter ego. Alter ego मतलब परछाई. जो कदम प्रधानमंत्री ने लिया, उस कदम की जिम्मेदारी के लिए वो किसी भी न्यायालय में नहीं जाएंगे, वो नहीं जा सकते, उनके पास और भी महत्वपूर्ण काम है. इसीलिए संविधान ये कहता है कि हम आपको एक परमानेंट वकील देंगे जो जाएगा और आपके द्वारा लिए गए जो आपके द्वारा लाई गई नीतियां हैं उनका ठोस डिफेंस किसी भी कोर्ट में भारत के भीतर वो देगा. एंड दैट इज व्हाई you will see the elections happening in 7 phases to Lok Sabha. On 4th of June, you all know by the newspapers, basic general knowledge, basic knowledge as a citizen. You all are voters now, adults. So you would see the results coming out on 4th of June. You would see a new Prime Minister. The first person the new Prime Minister will be appointing, पहली नियुक्ति जैसे ही प्रधानमंत्री अपनी शपथ लेंगे, पहली नियुक्ति, the very first appointment that takes place when the government changes, when the PM changes, will be Attorney General. And also the opposite. What is the opposite? This opposite came up in the exam in 22. Basic general knowledge. No. What is the opposite? No. In fact, if the Prime Minister is changing, the first person to be appointed shall be the Prime Minister. If the Prime Minister is resigning, or if the PM resigns, the very first person to resign along with the Prime Minister, the very first person to resign along with the Prime Minister shall be none other than the Attorney General. Will you agree with this?
Yes.
That is what came up in the exam, which I'll discuss later. A simple question like this came up in the exam, but with a catch. We'll discuss it later. Is it fine?
Yes.
Now let's write down what's there in the Constitution for him. Just give a subheading. Write down Attorney General. Quickly write down. Write down Attorney General. So what's the first thing you want to know? Part is part 5. We will not repeat it. You need to know what? Quickly, be attentive. You need to know the article. So when I say Attorney General, you need to tell me the article is this. Write down, discussed in the Constitution. Quickly. Discussed in the Constitution. under Article 76 discussed in the Constitution, under Article 76 has to be by-hearted, will not be asked in prelims, important for your civil services mains. I again repeat, articles are important for civil services mains. In prelims, they will not ask you articles, but very important for your basic knowledge. Second point, appointed by the president. Appointed by the president. And holds the office. And holds the office, underline, holds the office for the pleasure, holds the office for the pleasure of the president. Pleasure of the president. Pleasure of the president. Next point, is the chief legal officer. Is the chief legal officer kiska? Prime Minister is a crude way. Is the chief legal officer of the government of India or the central government or the union government or Bharat Sarkar all mean the same. Though I'll open up these phrases later. Take it as a fact, first class. Is the chief legal officer of the government of India or the union government and is assisted by underline, Solicitor General, and is assisted by Solicitor General. Solicitor General. In next point, the President decides. The President decides underline this term, the remuneration. The President decides the remuneration. What do you mean by this phrase, remuneration? Yeah, salary. In a crude way, you take it as a salary. Decides the remuneration of the Attorney General. Decides the remuneration of the Attorney General. Decides the remuneration of Attorney General. Next point, has to be qualified. Has to be qualified. Has to be qualified. Underline this phrase, which I'll discuss in the third class. See what it means. Have a thought. I'll open up the third class. Has to be qualified, underline, as a Supreme Court judge. Underline this phrase. Have a thought. Just a thought. As a Supreme Court judge. Has to be qualified as a Supreme Court judge. Has to be qualified as a Supreme Court judge. At the next point, this came up in the exam, which I'll discuss again in the next class. In bracket, write down CSP 2022. What is CSP? Civil Services Prelims 2022. In bracket, please write down CSP 2022. And this is CSP means this came up in the exam last year. Write down, underline this entire sentence. We'll open up in the next class. Just write it down in the class notes. Write down, as a convention. Underline, convention. As a convention as a convention, the Attorney General resigns. As a convention, the Attorney General resigns. Attorney General resigns. When who resigns? When the Prime Minister, add something in bracket, you would understand in the later lectures, when the Prime Minister, in bracket write down, and his Council of Ministers. And his Council of Ministers resign. And his Council of Ministers resign. Now see, come back to the class. Now see, I'll take the doubts in the end. Yes. AC temperature. Okay, we'll do that. Don't worry. 25 kar dijiye. Now see, listen to me carefully, all of you. There is one term which I'd like to pick up from this discussion, and this term is frequently repeated in the Constitution. This is a very simple term. You can absorb in your first class, but it has got a beautiful ramification for your prelims. What do you understand by this term pleasure? When I say that Attorney General holds his position for the pleasure of the President, what is the meaning, what is the inference, or what is the explanation of this term that you take as a citizen? That person A is holding his post for the pleasure of person B. As simple as that. Simple English.
Person B can terminate the person A at any time.
Absolutely right. President can terminate Attorney General at any time. Can I say that? If a person is holding, if I am holding my post in the institute for the pleasure of the institute, or if any person in this class, if he has ever done a job and I ask him, tell me about your job, he tells me or she tells me, I'm holding my job for the pleasure of the company. This means what? The company, for me the institute, for the Attorney General, the President can terminate at any point. Can I say that? Basic general knowledge, basic inference. Can I say that? So, as the next layer, if Attorney General will be holding his post for the pleasure of President, forget that, then it implies one more point, that because he is holding his post for the pleasure of someone, which is President, he will not have dash. Very good. He will not have a fixed tenure. I'll just touch upon this phrase again. He will not have a fixed tenure. He will not have security of tenure. He can be removed at any point. But he will also not have, keyword is not, this. What is this? This, which is just the logical corollary for any position in the world, including us, important for the examination. If any person is holding his post for the pleasure of someone, that individual will never have this in the Constitution. That is what I said, security of tenure will not be there, and I told that something else. This is very important. No, that's a totally different term. No, he will have the powers. He is a very powerful person. He is the chief lawyer of the government of India. Autonomy, no. Autonomy, we need to take it in a theoretical framework. I understand, but that's okay. No. Just one word. Term I have discussed, that if we already have agreed. I told you there'd be no security of tenure. Okay, I'll give you some hints. You apply your brains and then give me the answer. I'll give you the hints of the term. It basically is, it ends with the S and it starts with G. This is very important for the exam. This is what they ask. Apply your thoughts, basic English test. This cannot be taught by the institute, obviously. If any person is holding his post for pleasure of a person, could be you also. In fact, you would be also having this. If you qualify the exam, will you have a term? What do you think? The job that you all are fighting for, working so hard, getting up 7:30 in the morning and sitting in a bunch of students, if you get that job, you will be holding your post for the pleasure of the president like him. So for you, you will not have this. Exactly, you're the best example. Starts with G. Grievances, you will definitely have grievances because you don't have this. Yes, absolutely right. Very good. You will not have what? You will never have grounds of removal. Now listen to me carefully. Listen to me carefully. This is second query that you need to have as a citizen who's preparing Indian polity. All you would study in the subject will be the details of several important high-profile constitutional positions. For the positions, for some of them, there would be grounds of removal mentioned in the constitution, grounds of removal written in the constitution. Again, with that logic which I told you, which was very simple, if any person has got his grounds of removal written in the constitution, that has to be seen with this lens that that person cannot be removed. उस व्यक्ति को नहीं हटाया जा सकता. That person cannot be removed unless those grounds of removal are being applicable on him. So the point I'm trying to make is there are very few authorities in the constitution you would find that they'd have their grounds of removal enumerated in the constitution. That is nothing but a way that the constitution tells you that that post, that position is independent, and in the exam they can ask you a question like this in a multi-statement form. They can ask you which of the following have their grounds of removal enumerated in the constitution. Then that question actually wants to know that which are the positions which hold their posts for the pleasure of someone. The ones who are holding their post for pleasure of someone automatically will never have grounds of removal enumerated in the constitution. So all I want to say is any person who is holding the post, you would find many of them, you will write many of them very important asked in the exam before. If they hold their post for pleasure of someone, then having a ground of removal has got no correlation. They are mutually exclusive. And if somebody is having a ground of removal, then definitely that authority is not holding the post for the pleasure of anyone. So when I teach about any post, you need to know about the part, know about the article, know about the appointing authority, and know whether the grounds of removal are there in the constitution or not. That's the next query. Is it fine? For example, I'll tell you, the Prime Minister, what do you think? The highest authority for you, the most important person for you as a common man, would he have grounds of removal in the constitution? Yes or no? He is also like you. All of you and the AG and the PM and also the governor of the states, they do not have grounds of removal, which means they all will be having what? Which means they all are not having security of tenure. कभी भी हटाया जा सकता है. भारत के प्रधानमंत्री को किसी भी क्षण हटाया जा सकता है. क्या आपको पता है भारत के प्रधानमंत्री का कार्यकाल अगर आपको लगता है 5 साल, वो पूर्णतः गलत है, कभी भी हटाया जा सकता है. इसको बस सोचिए, इसको बाद में ओपन अप करेंगे. इन ब्रैकेट राइट डाउन क्विकली, राइट डाउन द फॉलोइंग पोस्ट्स और ऑफिसेस. Quickly write down, then we'll start with the first article. The following posts or the offices hold their office. Hold their office for the pleasure of the president. For the pleasure of the president. Very important fact asked in the exam before. For the pleasure of the president. First is governor. Very important post. Every article is important for him in the newspaper. Governor, article in bracket, write down 156. Has to be by hearted. Very important for mains. 156. Governor is 156. Second, write down Prime Minister and his Council of Ministers. Prime Minister and his Council of Ministers. Very important article. One of the most important article in bracket 75. We'll discuss it later. Very important. All these articles are very important. 75. Third, write down, all of you. What is the name of your post? All of you. What is the post that you are fighting for? What do you call that? What services? Subordinate services? That is just one of the services. What's the job that you're fighting for? Civil servants we say in English. In polity you would say what? Bureaucrats is a term in public administration. It's not a term in polity. All India services and central services. So you write down members of AIS. IAS or AIS? Yes, AIS. Members of AIS. Just go back and find out what AIS means. All India services and central services. Central services. And all the three thereby underline do not have grounds of removal. All the three thereby do not have grounds of removal. Do not have grounds of removal. Am I right? Now let's open the first article and start with the articles in chronology. Let's open the first article. Basic debates are done. Please write down the subheading, write down important articles. Now let's see each of the articles bit by bit. Important articles. First article, write down, is article 52. And by basic logic, if you know 52, then you know this. What is this? I'll make this sign which is like similar triangles, like you must have studied in class 7th. So when I write something like this in bracket, I am giving you the respective article for the state. So if you know this article 52 was center, you just have to replace the India by state, governor by president by governor, PM by CM, and ministers remain the ministers. So what is the equivalent article of 52 for the states part 6 by basic logic? Yes, the first article of executive is 52. The first article of state executive, what was the article? 153 to 167. State legislature was 168 to 212, and the High Court and subordinate court was 214 to 237. Has to be by hearted. Now let's write down the very first article. Very simple. Just introduces the most important person for all of us in the country. Write down, there shall be Prime Minister of India. Yeah, there shall be President of India. That is all. What is 153? There shall be governor for a state, and one more thing which is very interesting, which I'll discuss later, and a governor can be appointed as governor to more than one state. We'll discuss this later. So there shall be President of India, the first article, you know, article 153. Second is article 53. Now this is very important, be careful. If you know 53, then you know. If you know 53, then you know 154. 53. Write down, very important. Write down executive powers of union. Executive powers of the union. Executive powers of the union shall be vested. Very important. Tells you everything actually. Shall be vested with the president. Shall be vested with the president. Shall be vested with the president, who shall exercise. Who shall exercise. Who shall exercise the powers. What powers? Executive powers. Who shall exercise the powers. Who shall exercise the powers. Who shall exercise the powers directly. Who shall exercise the powers directly or with the help of officers, or with the help of officers, or with the help of officers subordinate. With the help of officers subordinate, adhin, subordinate to the president. Subordinate to the president. Subordinate to the president. In the next line, write down. Subordinate to the president. In the next line, write down. In the next line, write down. Therefore, what? Therefore, what? What's the inference? Therefore, what? Write down. Therefore, the president. Therefore, the president is what? No. Is head. Is head of who? No. Head of, underline, head of state is what you know from your basic general knowledge over the school days. That has got no correlation with this article. I'll discuss this phrase in a bit. Head of the state, you are right, but that's not the inference from this article. I'll discuss from where we derive that fact that you know. Write down is head of union executive. Is head of, underline, is head of, underline, union executive. Now listen to me. Listen to me. First, when you write any article in civil services mains, when you will start writing any article for your answer writing, because again to repeat for the third time, when you by heart articles, they'd not be asked in prelims, they'd be asked in civil services mains. Any question that you write in civil services mains on polity has to be started. That's a basic rule. You have to start your answers with the with the article and the part and what is the mention, what is the meaning of that article. That's the first thing. Second thing, that in the constitution, it's a document that is obviously written by lawyers. They have used a complex language. So that same language that you find in the constitution, there is no need to write that same language. If you write that same language, it gives a hint as if you by-hearted that provision verbatim. So what you need to do is, once you understand any article that you study in the class or in the newspaper, you can always simplify the language of that article and simply write it down in your own words in simple English in the subject. In fact, it's recommended that when you are writing any answer on the subject of polity in GS paper 2, the second paper of the mains paper, when you write any article, it's recommended that you write in your own words. These are two basic things. Now see, this article 53, if you know, then you automatically know 154. I give a statement, you keep it in your heads as a food for thought. If you know the center, if you know Kendra Sarkar, if you know the union government, if you know the central government, if you know the president, if you know the prime minister, if you know the parliament, then you automatically end up knowing the Rajya Sarkar or the state government or the governor or the chief minister or even the replica, the corollary of attorney general at center. Just get familiar. It is referred as advocate general in a state. That's the third point. And coming to this article is telling the citizens that any implementation, any execution of any law, any policy, any program which is being carried at the tier of center, all the execution that we are familiar with, for example, your appointment as a civil servant is one of the execution that the government of India does, or for example, declaration of national emergency is one of the executive powers that the government of India has, or putting any state that you come from or a UT, it is in use for Delhi under President's rule, is one of the executive powers that the government at center has, or for that matter, any law that you know. For example, you know about DPDP Act, Digital Personal Data Security Act, or you all know about the CAA Rules 2024, or you know about any law at center, any rule at center, any scheme at center, all of the powers of implementation of any rule, any law, any policy at the tier of center, the Constitution says does not lie with the Prime Minister. We feel it's the Prime Minister, but all the powers at center and state, they lie with the President, they lie with the Governor. And because there are so many laws, there are so many policies, there are so many schemes, a lot of work to do, that is why the second half of this article is opening up. It is giving flexibility to the President and the Governor. All it says is, we cannot write everything in the Constitution. That's also a thought which you need to think, which will get, culminated in the last lecture. This is a very important thought. What you write in the Constitution is also important. You cannot write everything in the Constitution. You just absorb it just as a food for thought. संविधान में सब कुछ नहीं लिख सकते. संविधान में सिर्फ बहुत ही महत्वपूर्ण बातें लिखी जाती हैं. You will study many facts in polity from the class now onwards in different subjects, in different areas of polity. You have a think what is there in the Constitution. You would find out by basic logic that most important things for any country's polity, they are written in the Constitution. That is why there is no need to tell the President which functions, which powers shall be performed directly, or which functions, which powers, which laws shall be implemented or delegated by the President. That is what we mean here. The Constitution just tells the President that you are free to identify, you are flexible to identify the laws and the policies or any power that you will directly involve, you will directly implement that policy, that program, that law cannot be carried forward unless the President of India himself or herself is individually directly involved in the class. I am directly giving you a class. I am directly involved with this batch, as compared to the routine administrative works of Bharat Sarkar, as compared to the day-to-day administrative works of the Government of India, where we allow the President that there is no need for you to be appointing every person individually. That is why when all of you qualify the exam, you will be appointed by the Bharat Sarkar. The Constitution tells that you will be appointed by the President because all of you qualify every year. More than 1,000 qualified this year. It's a big thing for you. It's a regular task for Bharat Sarkar to get a list, a bunch of people recommended by UPSC. That is why you will be appointed not directly, but by some authority, some person subordinate, subservient, adhinasth to the President. That is why some authority in the Ministry of Personnel and Grievances shall be appointing you to the service of Government of India, but what? But in the name of the President. But in the name of the President. So, for the exam, you don't need to know what functions are performed directly. You don't need to know what functions can be delegated. This will automatically come to you. And just to give a hint, the powers that the President derives from the Constitution, the powers or the articles that give the powers to the President in the Constitution, because there are many more sources that we'll have in the subject, all those constitutional powers of the President or the Governor, they are performed directly by him or her by individually signing that file, individually becoming a party. Without his or her individual involvement, that implementation will not take place. So all you know is, when I say Union Government, Bharat Sarkar, who's the head? The President. That is all. That's the only inference of this article. Is that all? Or there is something else? Is that all? She's the head now. Is that all? No, that is not all. Please write down something more in the class notes, all of you. Write down. Very important. Now, this is very important. Next para, write down. However, quickly. However, Article 53 has to be read. Article 53 has to be read with Article, very important for the exam, with Article 74. Very important. 74 is like the plinth of the Constitution. 74, as per which, underline the entire article, there shall be Council of Ministers, COM, Council of Ministers, headed by the Prime Minister. Headed by the Prime Minister to aid, sahayata and advice, salah, to aid and advise the President. to aid and advise the president, underline now, very important, who shall मतलब करेगा, who shall, underline shall, act on such advice. Who shall act on such advice. Who shall act on such advice, in bracket write down two amendments, very important for the exam, in bracket 42nd CAA 1976. You know CAA? Constitutional Amendment Act. You will write in short form 42nd CAA 1976. CAA 1976 had made such advice, binding. Binding मतलब mandatory. Constitutionally it was made binding. It's a mandatory clause. Any disobedience is clearly violating the Constitution. So write down. What's the sentence? Advice binding on the president. Advice binding on the president. Advice binding on the president. Binding on the president. In the bracket, in the next para, write down. However, 44th CAA 1978. However, 44th CAA 1978 allowed the president, or allows, write down, it happens even now, allows the president to refer such advice underline, for reconsideration. Very important phrase. For reconsideration back to the Council of Ministers. For reconsideration back to the Council of Ministers. However, if such advice is returned back, by the ministers to the president. Returned back by the ministers to the president. Then it shall be what? Then it shall be binding on the president. It shall be binding on the president. Now you write down, next line, give me your inference now. Therefore, what's the inference? Therefore, who's the head? Though I won't explain 74, but based on your understanding, who's the head? No. Write down, very important, very important fact, most important fact for you. Therefore, India has what? Therefore, India has dual मतलब दो. India has dual heads. India has dual heads or dual executives. Very important. Both the phrases are underlined. Dual heads or dual executives. Dual heads or dual executives. Write the same way as I write. The same way as I write. Where the president, the same way as I write, where the president is what? Where the president is nominal, or theoretical, or what? Or ceremonial, और बताइए एडजेक्टिव सिनोनिम्स, और what? टाइट्यूलर, और ऑन पेपर, और बताइए, और डी ज्योरे लैटिन फ्रेज, और डी ज्योरे हेड, डी ज्योरे हेड, डी ज्योरे हेड as compared to the prime minister, as compared to the prime minister, who is what? The same way as I write on the board. Prime minister is real or practical, or what? Basic general knowledge, or what? Or again Latin, opposite of de jure, or de facto head, de facto head or executive, de facto head or the executive. You write down the concluding remark, then I'll open up this provision. Write down therefore, quickly, then I'll open up this provision. Therefore, Article 74, in bracket, we are yet to discuss, very important article, along with 75, in bracket, along with 75, very important article, along with 75, very, very important, we'll discuss it later. 74 in bracket, along with 75, lay the foundation. Lay the foundation of what? किसकी प्लिंथ, किसकी नींव रखते हैं? अनुच्छेद 74 और 75. Federalism is totally different. Federal का मतलब center and states. Federal term in constitution simply means you are commenting on vertical distribution. When I say federal provision, you are basically, the moment I say federal in polity, federal means center and states. In India, in Pakistan, center and provinces. In US, center and states. In Japan, center and prefectures. That is how you say federalism. This is not federalism. Lay the foundation, yes, lay the foundation. Very important, very, very, very important of parliamentary form of government. Parliamentary form of government. Now see, listen to me carefully. See, first, there are some terms, listen to me, to look at the bird's eye perspective of what I mean to convey, then I come to this point. Also in polity, when you study any fact, like you got to study the fact that India is a parliamentary form of government, and I'll just tell you how it works. You need to know whether certain phrases that you'd study in polity, are they mentioned, are they given, are they provided, are they written in the constitution or not. Some of them I'll tell you, just some of them, just get a feel. Basic structure that you don't know. Second, judicial review that you don't know. Fourth, judicial activism that you don't know. Or parliamentary form of government as a phrase, is it mentioned in the constitution? Whether you need to know or no, there are two things here. First, is it mentioned? Second, is it derived? Two things you need to prepare for polity in the classes now onwards. First is it mentioned? मतलब क्या लिखा गया है? क्या संविधान में ये लिखा है कि भारत सरकार एक संसदीय किस्म की सरकार है? इसका जवाब है ना. Is it written? Is it mentioned? Answer is no. Is it derived? Can we say that as per constitution, India is a parliamentary form? The answer is 1000% yes. So two things you have to be absolutely clear. What is written, what is enshrined, what is mentioned, what is provided as compared to what is inferred, what is derived from the constitution. And that's a beautiful feature that the Britishers have given to the world. The origins are very interesting, but in a very crude way, they had a kingdom like every medieval state had a kingdom like us. So they wanted to overhaul that mechanism of there being concentration of power in just one authority. They became a modern state where they said that we'll have democracy. They had parliamentarians getting elected by the people, and they said that there has to be somebody to implement the laws which has been made by the representatives of the people. So they invented this post of prime minister, and they had to balance out the queen. They had to balance out the powers of the king, because the king could not have been totally displaced. And that is how they gave this beautiful framework which is prevalent in every country of the world which has got parliamentary form of government, be it UK, be it Holland, be it let's say Belgium, be it Norway, Finland, Poland, let's say Greece, Spain, Portugal, India, Japan, Bangladesh, every country of the world which has got a parliamentary form based on the foundations laid by the Britishers. The British parliamentary form is the mother of all of them, that there's a king in England who has got all the powers, but those powers are symbolic. The king in England cannot execute any law, any policy, any decision unless she gets the advice from the prime minister. The prime minister who is a repository of powers. All the powers in reality, in practice, they are with the prime minister, but the poor prime minister cannot take the action unless he nudges the queen to actually formally, theoretically, on paper, sign that file. That's the action sought by the prime minister. That is what we have in India. It's a beautiful arrangement. We'll culminate this arrangement when I'll show you how these countries of the world like Brazil, Venezuela, Colombia, Mexico, Nicaragua, or let's say Russia, Sri Lanka, or let's say France, or let's say African nations, let's say Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, Tajikistan, North Korea, China, all of them are presidential types, and they are totally different as compared to us, where we have got the powers in the hands of the president. Everything that the president does, the moment I say president in class, you have to automatically think it's not the president, it's actually the prime minister. Whatever power, any power that you know of the president by any source, all of it is performed by the president unless he or she gets the advice from the prime minister. If the PM gets the advice, gives the advice, then the president works. All that we allow the president, that too very late, That too very late. It was as late as 1978. Since 1978, we have given a safety valve to the president if he thinks the advice is not right. Everything that the president does is on the advice of the PM. If he thinks the advice is not right, he cannot go against the advice, no matter how against the constitution it is. कुछ भी हो, चाहे फंडामेंटल राइट्स का वायलेशन हो, चाहे असंवैधानिक हो, राष्ट्रपति को सलाह को मानना है. संविधान कहता है कुछ भी सलाह हो उसको मानना पड़ेगा. सिर्फ एक सेफ्टी वॉल्व है. There is just one way out, that the president can send back that advice. In practice, send back that file to the Prime Minister's office. It's called as PMO, back to the Prime Minister, because he thinks that the PM has given a wrong advice. They can have a rethought, they can redeliberate. But if the advice is given back to the President by the Prime Minister and a group of teammates, Council of Ministers, it is 1000%, no matter, I again repeat, how unconstitutional the advice is, whether it violates fundamental rights of everyone, the President cannot apply his mind. He can just send it for reconsideration. If he gets it back, he has to 1000% obey and follow the advice of the Prime Minister. So at the end of the day, all the powers, in reality, they are with the Prime Minister. But all these powers are fruitless unless he gives the formal file advice to the President. President in practice, in law, in rule, in article, everywhere we say the President, but he cannot do anything unless he gets the advice from the Prime Minister. That's the framework of India's type of government. That's the framework of duality in executive, and that is why a food for thought for you as citizens. You would read about many nations of the world in the IR section of the newspaper. All of the nations without fail, if they are a failed state, there's a civilian rebellion or there's a mass protest that is happening in that country. Any country, विश्व में कोई भी देश आप उठाइए, कोई भी देश, जिस भी देश में कोई दुविधा है या फिर नागरिक राज्य के खिलाफ, सरकार के खिलाफ आवाज उठा रहे हैं, they have picked up weapons, it's an armed rebellion, कोई मिलिट्री coup हो, वो सभी देश किस किस्म के देश होंगे? Yes, all of these countries, they'd be examples of presidential type of regimes, just as a food for thought. In US, a person knows just one person, the US president. In Turkey, person knows just one person, the president. In Maldives, you all saw what happened in Maldives, right? Just one person, the president. In India, in Japan, in UK, all these nations, we know two persons, president and the prime minister, right? You can just read about this index and just read and get a better feel of my theory. Just for your reference, it's good after the class you came early so you can study about it. There's an organization which is called as VDEM. Have you heard the name? VDEM releases a democracy index and they put India very below. That's not a good thing, but you'd want to see their democracy index. You'd see the dictatorial countries which have got the presidents ruling for more than 30 years. All of them shall be examples of presidential type of government. For all of you, in your first class, I can comment on the society of a country, the polity of a country by just knowing what type of government that country has, which we'll see later in the discussion of parliamentary and presidential in my 9th class, last class of this executive. Does it come easy? Any doubts? Should I go ahead? Is it clear, all of you? Yes. Right. Now let's write down the next subtopic. This is very important. It came up in the exam in 23 and 18 in prelims. So you write down, what should be the next topic? No. There's so much left for the president. No. Yes. Write down election of the president. Election of the president. I give you a framework so that you understand, though it's too early for you. Election of the president actually came up in prelims in 2018 and it came up in 2023. What is the logic? Yes, very good. Mrs. Draupadi Murmu got elected as the President of India when? common general knowledge? 2022 July. And the next prelims came up in 23 May. So they asked two questions actually. Before that, Mr. Ramnath Kovind got elected as the president in July 2017. So the question came up in 2018. So by that logic, the next question comes up in 2028, and I hope that by that time you are not preparing for the class notes. In mains it came up as a question in 2022 because mains happens in September, October. So they asked a question that was a useless question. I'll tell you how a useless question looks like later when I'll take mains topic, but that is how the question have come from this topic. Just write down a brief and then I'll open the article. Okay, one more thing, just one thing, basic, then we'll open. When I say election, what do you want to know? Election of class representative of this batch. What will you have as question? First basic question. First is who will do what? Who will vote? पहली चीज है contest. कॉन्टेस्ट बाद में आएगा, पहली चीज है वोट, मतलब कौन वोट करेगा. दूसरी चीज yes, first the moment I say election in polity, if I talk about any positions election, किसी भी पद का चुनाव अगर हम उस पे बहस करें संविधान के मुताबिक, उस चुनाव में दो चीजें होंगी, आपको दोनों ही पता होनी चाहिए, दोनों ही लॉजिकल हैं. पहला है कौन इलेक्ट करेगा. फर्स्ट इज हु इलेक्ट्स. व्हेन आई स्पीक इन हिंदी आई विल स्पीक द सेम इन इंग्लिश, डोंट वरी द वंस हु डोंट अंडरस्टैंड हिंदी. सेकंड इज कैसे. कैसे in English means how. How is new for you. How is a concept. So the moment I say any election, you need to know कौन and कैसे, who and how. And the thing you said, who will be eligible, that we'll discuss in the next class, which is called as qualifications to be the president. Who can be qualified to be a class representative of this batch, we'll discuss it later. That's a technical term, right? Please take down the write-up. Write down. So actually I'll tell you here also, who is discussed in 54, how is discussed in 55. Fairly logical. Article 54 and 55. Am I clear? Now you write down the President of India is elected and not what? Either you get elected or you get this, and not appointed or nominated, both mean the same. And not appointed, why? As India is a not democracy. As India is a underline republic. India is a republic. Republic in bracket as per the preamble. As per the preamble. As per the preamble, and in a republic, underline, the head of the state, state is elected. Basically, you'd be taught by a different teacher preamble. That's a beautiful, mirror. That's a beautiful insight It's beautiful 7-8 lines that give you the personality of the Indian Constitution. So if you want to know the Indian Constitution, don't read the 400 articles, just read the preamble and you'd find the flavor of the entire Constitution in those beautiful 7-8 lines. Those 7-8 lines are asked frequently every year in the examination. They're taken by a different teacher. So you follow that from that perspective, shall be taken up in detail. So don't worry about that. We'll discuss preambles separately. But the ones who've studied political science before, the ones who haven't studied, they'd not know, they'd need to follow here. The ones who've studied political science in your graduation or in your 11th, 12th, I'm sure you must have heard about the phrase state. Indian state, Pakistani state, Nepali state, Ukrainian state, Afghan state, Russian state, and then we say Indian government, Pakistani government, Nepali government, Ukrainian government. What's the difference? State, like you all know from your school days, like basic general knowledge, that president is the head of the state and prime minister is the head of the government. I hope all of you know this. All of you, it's a very popular basic, even a class 1 student knows it. So now you need to tell me, the ones who've studied political science before, who've read the subject before, not the new ones, what's the difference between state and government? Simple. Yes.
The state is a territorial entity at the population level, and the government, which is the ruling on it.
Right. So state is subset of government or government is subset of state? Okay, now see, this concept of state is very interesting in political theory, but we'll not go into that. State is a large entity. State is an overarching, it's all-encompassing entity. For example, Indian state. What would a state have in your thoughts as a common man? Indian state will have what? It will first have a territory. Like Indian state has got a fixed territory. It's territory that's demarcated by geography. We've got a map of India. Territory has to be having people. This is very interesting. It emerges in ancient history also. You would study this. This is a very beautiful, very simple but very interesting concept. It will have territory, it will have people. Palestine has got territory, Palestine has got people. Right? Gaza has got territory, Gaza has got people. It doesn't have this. Can I call Gaza a state, Palestine a state? Because it is not sovereign. A beautiful term which shall be opened up in preamble class by that teacher. But sovereign means that if any state is making laws, it is not making those laws from any external pressure. Indian state does not make any law by the pressure of the outside world. We are sovereign. We take the decisions internally and externally as per my constitution. Is it fine? So Gaza does not, Palestine does not have sovereignty. Right? South Sudan did not have sovereignty until it got sovereignty by becoming a nation. And then the last is what? Last is to fulfill the objectives of this overarching entity called as state, equality, justice, welfare, freedom of speech and expression, these broad values that you'd study in preamble, you need someone to fulfill. You and me cannot fulfill. We need a government. एक सरकार की होने की आवश्यकता है. तो what is government?
It's a machine that runs.
Yes, it's the actionable part of the state. The values, objectives, vision, the broad premise of the Indian state enshrined in the preamble is fulfilled, propelled, taken ahead by the vehicle of government. Will you agree? So head of the government or the types of the government is what we'll study in the subject. Parliamentary or presidential. Parliamentary form of government, not parliamentary form of state, parliamentary form of government and presidential form of government India has got parliamentary form of government. Japan has got parliamentary form of government. Thailand has got parliamentary form of government. UK has got parliamentary form of government. Belgium, Netherlands, Monaco, all of them have got parliamentary form of government. But what is their state? Head of the state in India is who? King. Head of the state in India is the president. So I call myself as a republic. And who else can be the head of the state? Absolutely right. Monarch, Raja. तो इन दोनों को साथ कैसे पढ़ेंगे? जैसे आप किसी अपना पासपोर्ट पढ़ेंगे, उसमें क्या लिखा होता है? रिपब्लिक ऑफ इंडिया. तो वो पासपोर्ट में टाइप ऑफ गवर्नमेंट नहीं लिखी होगी. जैसे पाकिस्तान, इस्लामिक रिपब्लिक ऑफ पाकिस्तान, वहां प्रेसिडेंट है पर वहां इस्लाम प्राइमरी रिलीजन है, पर वो है क्या? इस्लामिक रिपब्लिक ऑफ पाकिस्तान. दैट्स द नेम ऑफ द स्टेट. So England is parliamentary form of government. India is parliamentary form of government. But we are a republic and they are a constitutional monarchy. So we call the nation, we name a nation like this in polity. India is a republic with a parliamentary form of government. England is what? UK. England is constitutional monarchy with parliamentary form of government. Japan, constitutional monarchy with parliamentary form of government. Netherlands, constitutional monarchy with parliamentary form of government. Am I clear, all of you? Came up in the exam 22 prelims. A very simple idea, very basic. Right? Should I go ahead now? So you can just write in bracket. UK is UK, Japan, Netherlands. UK, Japan, Netherlands. UK, Japan, Netherlands are what? Are constitutional monarchies with the parliamentary form of government. Constitutional monarchy with parliamentary form of government. Is it clear or not? Clear or not? Right. So now let's open the first provision in the election. You give the first subheading. We'd like to open कौन elect करेगा, कौन चुनाव करेगा भारतीय राष्ट्रपति का, the number one authority in the country. So you write down, give the first heading, write down, very important article, came up in 2018 actually. So you write down article 54. Try to feel it. This is the first election that you will study. Article 54, and this is what? Kaun, or I can say who elects. Try to feel the article. First thing in election is Article 54. Write down. You draw this diagram after the class. I hope all of you have drawn the diagram.
Yes, sir.
Right. Write down, the president is elected by, quickly all of you. The president is elected by, now see who elect him. Try to feel them. First, elected, underline, elected members of parliament, underline elected. Elected members of the parliament. Then write down elected members of, underline this new term, legislative assembly. Elected members of legislative assembly. In the same way as I write on the board, of states, of the states, how many states? 28. And UTs. How many UTs? 8, but the one having legislative assembly, how many? 3. In bracket write down. In bracket write down below UTs, write the same way as write on the board. In bracket write down Delhi, Puducherry, and Jammu and Kashmir. Jammu and Kashmir. In the same point write down in the bracket itself Delhi and Puducherry. Delhi and Puducherry have been participating after the enactment of, by heart the amendment, after the enactment of 70th CAA 1992 70th CAA 1992, and one more point you write down, though J&K shall be made a state very soon, but as of now, if I talk about the present, you can write this, I'll open up this point also. You write down post abrogation of 370, post abrogation, hatana, post abrogation, visible in the end? Okay, post abrogation of 370 and J&K being made a UT, J&K being made a UT, comma, J&K now shall participate. J&K now shall participate as a UT, but before 2019 participated as a state. Now see, we'll just touch upon this concept and not open the depth because I'll anyways take it up at great length later. See, do you know what's a union territory like? What is a union territory? Name itself, Union Territory. In Hindi we call it Kendra Shasit Pradesh. You must have heard the name. So Union Territory basically means that there's a territory, there are certain territories. Territory means a two-dimensional area. There are certain territories in the country which, because of many reasons, which is interesting, because of many varied, there's no one uniform reason. Because of many reasons, they are governed straight away by the President. President straight away runs the show. Unlike your 28 states, the governor runs the show. The president has got no domain, no business in your 28 states. But in the UTs, the show, the administration is carried out by the president. It's just that Three of the UTs, they are huge. They are large in terms of population, like J&K, like Delhi, like Puducherry. They are too large to be not given representation, to be not having a people's house. We thereby give these three UTs, that is Delhi, Puducherry and J&K, these three large UTs, but administered by center, we give these three large UTs a body which is called as Legislative Assembly. Have you heard this phrase? Do you know what is Parliament? Okay, I'll simplify because some of you might not be knowing. I hope all of you know India is a democracy. ये तो सभी को पता होगा. भारत लोकतंत्र है. क्या मतलब होता है डेमोक्रेसी का? ये मत बताइएगा who the people, by the people, वो सब नहीं. What's the meaning of democracy? Define democracy, yes. Rule of people. I am not ruling the country. Are you? No. How can people rule a country? How can 150 crore rule the country? Yes. Yes, simple. The democracy is a simple term in polity. In a very simplified way, for a layman, I'd say that democracy is nothing but an arrangement where the rule is not of people, but that's okay. You try to appreciate your confidence. But the rule is not of people. The rule is of who? People's representatives. Can I say that? In India, the rule is of not the people, but people's representatives. And India is a huge country. I hope all of you agree with that. Isn't it? Isn't it yes or no? So we are a huge country. So the representatives are bifurcated in two tiers. क्योंकि हम बहुत बड़ा, हमारा देश बहुत बड़ा है, तो हम representation to take democracy at the grassroots, to take democracy to the people, what we do is we create two tiers of representatives. The tiers of representatives at center, you all will vote this time. It is popularly called as Lok Sabha. Lok means people, Sabha means a body of representatives. And if you want to choose your representative in a state, because your issues in your state level issues are different from the national issues. So for that we call it as a legislative assembly. Vidhan Sabha. So Vidhan Sabha kya hai? They are your representatives to make laws at the tier of states. Lok Sabha kya hai? They are your representatives to make laws at center. And there is one more house at center. It is called as Rajya Sabha. Just know the name. We don't want to open the details at this stage. Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha, they together are called as Parliament. I hope you know it. If you don't know, basic. People's House, Lok Sabha, People's House, Assembly. At center there is one more. I'll just add it here. They are not my representatives. They are representatives of the states. So I'll call it simply as Rajya Sabha. I hope all of you got it. The ones who were not aware of the Lok Sabha and these terms, that's okay. It's first class. Is it clear now? Now with this lens, you put on this lens and then you look at this article and tell me what's the gist, what's the feel, what's the soul, what's the thought, what's the mind of the Constituent Assembly. With what I told you, now you revisit and tell me what's the thought, underlying thought in the Article 54. Underlying thought means I want to know the gist. If I had to just show you, I had to explain to let's say a rickshaw puller, he'd not know what is Vidhan Sabha, though he'd know. He'd not know what is Lok Sabha. You have to explain him Article 54 after this class. What will you explain him? How shall you be giving that a common layman person a gist of 54? Simplify. Yes. Yes, agreed. 100% agreed. If I want to just diagrammatically show you the gist of Article 54, you have a look at this diagram and you see if you agree with me or not. I said that we are discussing election of the president. Am I right? Just I'm trying to simplify in a diagrammatic manner. Then I'll revisit that article, don't worry. You will agree with me that the president is elected by representatives of the citizens or people. Will you agree with me? Yes or no? Stop me when you disagree. And representatives, they are at what tiers? They are at 2 tiers, right? I just showed you Lok Sabha and Council of States and Vidhan Sabha, isn't it? So I'd say that it's a representatives at Kendra, it's representatives at the second tier, states and UTs, 3 UTs, they are like states have got assemblies. So I'd say, is it clear till now? I'm just agreeing to what you are telling me. The center is represented by members of the parliament, that is RS plus LS, and the states are represented by members of the legislative assembly across 31 states and UTs. Is this diagram right? Can I say this is a gist of Article 54? So can I tell a common layman, एक आम व्यक्ति को हम कह सकते हैं कि राष्ट्रपति का चुनाव तुम और हम नहीं करते, कौन करता है? हमारे प्रतिनिधि केंद्र एवं राज्यों पर. कह सकते हैं हाँ या ना? Can I tell a common man that the president, the highest authority, the head of the state in my country is not elected by the citizens, he or she is elected by our representatives at center and state? Can I say that, yes or no? Yes, sir. And if you agree with this, then I'd like to just add one more layer which is slightly interesting, more interesting than this article. What would you offer, what would you have for this side of the debate? One notch deeper. What would you comment upon the diagram with this second part of this debate?
So there's an importance of MPs, but when you see the MPs, we are not situating the national importance.
Yeah.
We are looking at this MLAs.
Yes.
So they're looking at the state importance also because it's a federal government.
Yes. Now see, these two circles which I have drawn for MPs and MLAs, are they drawn correctly? Should the size of the sphere, is it equal or unequal? MPs sphere and MLAs circle, this circle, are they equal in size? I think they're equal. I wanted to draw them equal, assume it's equal. So if they are equal, then it means what? It means equal importance to center and states, yes or no? Yes, sir. It means if I want to actually go to the numbers now, I can say that 50% of the votes they lie with the center, and other remaining 50% they lie with the states. Yes or no? Assume they are same. अगर नहीं भी same है, मान इतना mathematically मत जाइए with a magnifying lens. They have to be drawn the same, which means what? Equal representation of center and states, which means what's the inference of this article? I want to know the inference now. What's the thought? Yes, absolutely right. Absolutely right. Absolutely right. Article 54 is an example of what? Is an example of federal provision. Is an example of federal provision. Is an example of federal provision. Now, just try to take the thoughts after the class ends. In prelims, there's a very common question that they ask. It's a very common question in polity. They'd give you 4 or 5 features and they'll ask you that which of the following features are federal. What is federal? What is federal from this diagram? Federal provisions imply by the name itself. Federal provisions imply by the name itself that the powers between states and center, they are equally shared. Barabari. जहां केंद्र एवं राज्य दो टीयर्स, डिवीजन ऑफ पावर्स, वर्टिकल डिवीजन ऑफ पावर्स, जहां दोनों की शक्तियां बराबर हो, उसको हम बोलते हैं पॉलिटी में दिस इज अ फेडरल प्रोविजन. बट आई टेल यू it's opposite. Its opposite is called as unitary, where the center is more powerful, overpowers the states, and the constitution has got more what? Federal or unitary provisions. कौन से ज्यादा है, फेडरल या यूनिटरी? भारतीय संविधान में यूनिटरी प्रोविजंस, यूनिटरी फीचर्स ज्यादा है फेडरल से. दैट इज व्हाई we are a federation, but we are tilted towards center. Sometimes just know it as a keyword, shall be taken by a separate teacher, don't worry about that. There are features which are federal, there are features which are unitary, but we are a quasi-federal country where the powers of center are more or less as compared to the states. But first provision that you see in the constitution is 54. That's an example of a federal provision. That's the key to open this article. That is all, nothing else. This is the right, you need to remember this for the exam, right? And because I would like to just go into details, you saw elected twice in that 54. I'd like to just show you the seats, the membership of the houses, so that you just get familiar. The details we'd open when I'd start with the parliament. So just write a small subheading here. Is it clear? Yes or no? Yes, sir. Okay, just write down one simple point here. Just make a small subheading. Write down composition of the houses. I want you to just get familiar with the numbers. That's the only objective. कितनी सीटें कहां हैं, कैसे हैं, बस आपको वो पता होना चाहिए, और इसकी डेप्थ हमें अभी एक्सप्लोर नहीं करनी. Composition of houses. House means what? Yeah, house in polity always means legislature. I'll say house in class. House always means legislature, the legislative organ of the state. Let me put it this way. So I'd say the first is the parliament, and parliament has got two houses, Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. Lok Sabha, all of you know, how many seats? Everybody knows in the class by the reason of elections. Lok Sabha has got 543, all of them are elected, all of them will participate. Rajya Sabha, you would not know, I'll tell you and I'll repeat it in the class later on. It has got 233 seats who are elected. Who elects, how they elect, forget that thing. That's not the question, just the numbers we want to be familiar of. 12 seats, they are nominated, they are chosen by someone, forget who chooses. These 12, they are nominated. Constitution says only elected ones participate. So you add 543 and 233, a bit of CSAT is also there. Get it free of cost in the polity classes. Tell me, what's the number? 7? Yes. How many MPs? 776. To further make it specific, they together constitute 50% of the votes. Can I say this way? Can I say this or not? That diagram, I have just given you the exact mathematical number. Is it clear? Is it clear? And if I talk about the legislative assembly, I need to inform that all members are elected. सभी members elected होते हैं. विधानसभा में सारे members are elected. Is it really true? What's the exception? Where? Which state? That's okay. In bracket, just write down the exception, though it will not be asked, but just for your precise knowledge, in bracket write down, however, LA of short form, LA of Puducherry and JNK. What is LA? Legislative Assembly, write in short form, use abbreviations in the class. Make abbreviations for President, Parliament will use them very frequently. So, LA of Delhi and Puducherry. Yeah, Puducherry and JNK have some nominated members. Right? These nominated members do not participate. What is the exact number? We don't want to open for the exam, so I'm just telling you, the ones who have been nominated, they will not participate. And the most important part of this article, important for the exam, write down number 3. Number 3, very important. Legislative Council, very important. Just get familiar with this term. Legislative Council. In bracket, in 6 states. Do not participate. Have you heard this phrase? Vidhan Parishad. How would you know this phrase as a layman? So this is a very interesting topic, very interesting because it is confusing. The Constituent Assembly was confused about this provision. So they added the confusion, they transferred that confusion to the members of the parliament. So it is so confusing that even the members of the Legislative Council that we have in 6 states, they themselves are confused that what is the confusion regarding the function that they have. Nobody actually knows in a very crude way what the legislative councils do, and that's the beauty, and that confusion came up in the mains in 2021, which I'll discuss later, not right now. So you just need to know one thing at this level in the first class, that every state doesn't have a legislative council. There are just 6 states which have got legislative council. सिर्फ 6 राज्यों में legislative council, हिंदी में बोलते हैं विधान परिषद, is there. The names are very easy to by heart. There is UP and Bihar in North India. Then you come further south of Vindhyan mountain range. You go from the west till the east. West, Vindhyan mountain range, west till the east. What lies in west? Maharashtra. Go east. What lies east of Maharashtra? Karnataka. What lies east of Karnataka? Telangana. And what lies east of Telangana? Andhra Pradesh. 6 states which have got legislative council. In north, UP, Bihar. South of India's Maharashtra, Karnataka, Telangana and Andhra. These 6 states, they've got legislative council. And just one fact which I want you to by heart, I'll open this topic right at the end, that legislative councils are very different from these 3 because they are constitutional bodies. No amendment to the constitution can abolish the LS, RS and LA. However, the legislative councils are at the mercy of the parliament. If the parliament wants to abolish LC in these 6 states, it can absolutely do that. And second point, the LCs thereby are non-permanent, can be destroyed by the parliament. And second, it's not a common feature for all the 28 states. Only 6 of them, they've got legislative council. So because of it being non-permanent and it being non-uniform, every state doesn't have it, it's non-permanent and non-uniform, we debar legislative councils entirely, that is there in 6 states, to participate in the election. Is it fine? And concludingly, can I teach for 10 minutes more? Are you all comfortable? Right. So I want to take the last best topic and conclude. You want to make a conclusion here? What's the conclusion of 54? What's the conclusion? We wrote it. Write down, therefore, the President of India, therefore, the President of India, underline, is indirectly elected. Indirectly elected. What is indirect? That is not direct. And what is direct? Yeah, which is not indirect. What is a direct election? Yeah, a direct election, just take it as a very simple definition because we'll again use it when I take up legislative council. A direct election is an election where the citizens, the adults elder than 18, popularly it shall be taught to you, referred as universal adult franchise. If the adults, they vote in an election, that's called as a direct election. If any other election, any other election in the constitution where the citizens are not voting, all of those elections, because citizens are not voting, it shall be called as an indirect election. Am I fine? So this is a factual part, just revise it. Now let's go to the second part of this discussion. Article 55, this is very interesting, and then I'll conclude the class. I won't take more than 10 minutes here, but I wanted to get a feel of this concept. Write down, second is, part B of the election is, write down, Article 55. What is 55? Can you all concentrate, yes or no? Right, good. So, what is 55? How? How matlab? Kaise? We are discussing now kaise or how of the elections. You write down or see, it is very interesting. Write down, the president is elected. The president is elected by proportional representation, by proportional representation, name itself, proportional representation, add one more term, by single, which I'll discuss later, transferable, single transferable vote, STV I'll call in class. Next class we'll open up. Single transferable vote, STV, by single transferable vote, and the voting is by, you all know this, and the voting is by secret ballot. And the voting is by secret ballot. I hope all of you know this, right? Secret ballot, the name itself is telling you. Secret ballot means what? It means that, it means that no one gets to know the choice or the candidate chosen by elected MPs or MLAs, or I can say that when the election of the president takes place, the elected MPs, MLAs, they cast their votes as electors. Their voting choice or their votes, Hindi mein mat, is confidential, is secret ballot. Nobody knows except the electors themselves who they have chosen as the candidate for the post of the president. Is it clear till now? So you are the only one who knows who is the candidate chosen by the elected MPs, MLAs. In fact, all of you will witness it when you will cast your vote in the elections to the 18th Lok Sabha, which is starting, You will all cast your vote for the 18th Lok Sabha from where? From Delhi. You will go back physically to your constituency, which I don't think you will go. And that is why we've got arrangement. We are recommending something called as remote voting. It's a beautiful new age concept, important for mains. We just find out what is remote voting. So you need to go physically to your constituency and cast your vote. Nobody knows except you. Is that clear? Okay, now let me open up this phrase, which is interesting. I would just want you to repeat this term and take a sense of this phrase. Proportional representation. Proportional representation. Proportional, the class representative of this batch. We have elections after the class. I say that the class representative is elected by proportional representation. What does it tell you? Basic English first thought, proportional class representative gets elected by proportional representation. Proportion means what? A proportion of the students of this batch did not like the class. Proportion means a part of it. Part of it. Proportion. In Hindi we say anupat. So, to be elected by proportional representation, can I say that just the name, proportion, certain proportion of the votes need to be at least won, at least taken, at least garnered by the candidate? Or I cannot say that. Okay, if it doesn't, I think it doesn't come to you, that's okay. Let's look at the one which is very simple. Keep this aside now. There is another how of the election. I'll give you the name because you all have voted in your lives in any election by this methodology, by this how. You are familiar with this how. It is first past the post. Have you heard this phrase? First past the post. There's a post, the lamp post. Lamp post wala post, yahan pe post ka matlab ye hai. Post matlab pillar. All of you run in a race. I make all of you after the class run in a 2-kilometer race. 2 kilometers ahead of you have kept a post. And first past the post is the winner. Hang on, listen to me. All of you run in a 2-kilometer race. There's a post, there's a pillar. That's the benchmark. That is where the race ends. I have kept it 2 kilometers ahead. First past the post is the winner. So the one who crosses that post first is the winner, right? Without caring about, yes, without caring about what? Without caring about the time. I don't care about the time that the winner who crossed the post in first past the post took. कितना समय विजेता ने लिया वो मापदंड नहीं है. First past the post में the criteria मापदंड is that ये है who crosses the post first of all. किसने उस पोस्ट को सबसे पहले लांगा पार किया. इसको आप इलेक्शंस में लाइए. An election, if I organize to the post of class representative by first past the post, I do not care about what? Absolutely right. I do care about the number of votes. Yes. When we organize any election by the FPTP, first past the post, I do not care about the proportion of votes taken by the candidate who is the winner. All I care is what? The max. All I care about is the max. For example, so I'll just write something. I'll say this is max, सबसे ज़्यादा. There are 100 people in this batch. I want to organize elections to the post of class representative. 4 of you, they became the candidates, A, B, C, D. I counted the votes of 100 of you, all of you casted your votes. Let us say A got 26 votes. A got 26, let's say B got 25, let's say C got 25, what is left? 24. This is the result. I organized the elections to the post of class representative of this batch. 4 of the candidates, they contested the elections. ये result है आपके सामने. Who is the winner? A. Absolutely right. A is the winner of the election by getting max, सबसे ज़्यादा, सबसे अधिक. But if I look at the flip side, if I look at the result of the election from a different perspective, I can say that 26% of the students, they chose A and it's FPTP max, so A is the winner. If I look at the flip side, 74% of the class is not choosing A despite that A is the winner. Isn't it? So what's the point I'm trying to make? The President of India might be elected if I would have had FPTP as the manner where Mrs. Draupadi Murmu could have been the President, even in a scenario where she got the max and she was not even having the least proportion of votes which is required to win the election. That is why I discard this problematic yet simple manner of elections. I would want to go for the election of the highest authority in my country, not by FPTP, but by proportional representation, where the winner in any election, including had it been your election of representative, if it is by proportional representation, then the candidate would be declared as the winner only if he or she got the least proportion of votes, which in this case is majority. Bahumat. If the same election with the same results, I now just tweak, I modify the election, I tell you, I am organizing the elections to the post of class representative by proportional representation, then in this election result, nobody would have been the winner. कोई भी नहीं, क्योंकि किसी को भी विजेता घोषित करने के लिए, for anyone to be declared as a winner, there should have been at least 50, कम से कम 50, क्योंकि 50% majority is the least proportion of votes for any of the candidates ABCD to get elected as the class representative. That is why the President of India, Mrs. Draupadi Murmu, got elected in July 22, 1000% by getting the maximum votes. सबसे ज़्यादा तो थे ही थे, but she did not get the maximum. She definitely got the maximum for sure. That's not even a question. But she also ended up getting majority of the votes. She represented 50% of the elected MPs and MLAs. That's the reason we want the President of India and many more, like the Vice President, to be representing at least 50% of the electorate. That's the beauty of proportional representation. Is it clear? Now you can relax. The ones who are good with mathematics and logic, they can raise their hands. I'd like to talk only to them. अब बाकी जिनका नहीं है उनको हम वैसे ही बताएंगे. जिनकी गणित अच्छी है, जिनका लॉजिक तर्क वितर्क अच्छा है, वो अपने आत्मविश्वास को ध्यान में रखते हुए अपने हस्तों को हवा में लहराएं, हमारा ध्यान आकर्षित करें. जिनका मैथमेटिक्स अच्छा है वही करें, जिनका नहीं है कोई बात नहीं, आराम से रिलैक्स करें. Okay, your mathematics is good. Okay, you and anyone else, I'll talk to only you then. You and who else? Okay, you are in front, so I'll talk to someone at the rear ends. Because I need to tell them we are studying polity. We all are studying polity in the end. I hope it's coming clear. Yes, anyone in the end from that side? Somebody good with mathematics? From that side? Somebody has raised the hands? Somebody this side? Okay, so it's too far for me. I'll talk only to you. Okay, now listen to me carefully. I said that I want to have elections to the post of one class representative. I said that this is by proportional representation, so the person needs to get 50% of the votes. Is it clear, all of you? Now, listen to me. If I want to choose one class representative, the proportion was 50%. Plus one, I'd say at least 50%. Am I right? If I want to choose two class representatives, then वो तो हो ही नहीं सकता. दोनों का 50 से ज्यादा होगा तो क्लास में बच्चे ही 100 हैं. If two class representatives need to be elected from the same 100 electors, I have two vacant class representatives post and I want to elect two of them, then what is that proportion of votes that's required to win the election? That's okay, I appreciate your confidence. No, only one chance. You cannot give me answers like this. Anyone else wants to participate? If I want to choose two class representatives, then what is the proportion of votes to be declared as the winner? A simple question. The 34, you mean 33 plus 1. 33% plus 1. If I want to choose three class representatives, 25% plus 1. If I want to choose four class representatives, 20% plus 1. What is the point I'm trying to make? What is the point? समझ में आ रहा है online? 2, 3, 4 of you gave me the reply. What is the point I'm trying to make? Yes. If there is any election, listen to me, absorb it, you need to revise, let it sink in slowly and slowly. If there is any election which is by proportional representation, the candidate will be declared as the winner if he gets certain proportion of votes. Yes or no? Yes. What is that proportion of votes required to win the election by proportional representation is dependent on what? Number of? No. Is related inversely. Mathematics you all know, right? Is related inversely to the number of seats for which the elections are happening. The moment the number of seats are increasing from 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 5, the number of seats for which election is happening, if they keep on increasing in that same proportion inversely, ulta, the proportion of the votes required to be declared as a winner, it reduces. Does it come to you easy?
Yes, sir.
That is what we first calculate in any election which is by proportional representation. We always calculate something called as a quota. Quota is the least proportional of the votes required to win the election in an election which is by proportional representation. What is the formula? Give me a formula for quota. Devise a formula. What is quota? Least number of votes. कम से कम आवश्यक. Least number of votes required to win the election. Tell me, give me a formula mathematically. It's simple. There's no polity here. There's simple logic. Total seats. No. Yeah. Total number of, I'll not say voters, because voters has got a problem. You'd see this in the next class, of valid votes divided by, किससे divide करे? Number of seats plus 1, very good. And because we have to go to the next number, at least 50% plus 1, at least 33% plus 1, to go to the next number we need to add plus 1. You apply your brain, have a thought, it will come to you. So listen to me carefully. In the next class, then we meet, don't read anything. Just keep on reading the newspapers. Whatever you read in the newspapers, I'll inculcate in the next class so that you understand the framework of subject with the current affairs. You just revise this note, and in the next class, I'll open this quota. I'll discuss with you the meaning of single transferable vote. I'll discuss something very interesting, which is very complex for this election. And if I get time, I'll start with a very heavy concept, which is called as Office of Profit. I would want you to get this handout. Don't read it. Just get this handout in the class. If you don't get it, you don't understand the class. So you get this handout. The online ones, the next class, you please keep the handout handy. If you don't get it, then you'll be struggling in the next first 40 minutes. I'd come to a very interesting point. Why there is plus 1, Shubham, Yuvraj Shubham, have a thought, let it sink in. I'll open up your doubts in the next class. Let it sink in. थोड़ा सोचिए plus 1 क्यों है? Just revise the class notes for the next class. Is it fine, the online ones, all of you? Yes or no? Okay, then thank you. Have a good day ahead. Good morning, all of you. Thank you.